The Light That Did Not Go Out. Chapter 1. The Woman in the Ballroom. The sea didn't take me, Grant. You made sure I never came home. Emily Carter's voice crossed the Harbor Crown ballroom more cleanly than the orchestra. 200 guests stopped beneath the chandeliers. Grant Holloway stood at the podium beneath a 40-foot screen displaying the silver crest of Holloway Maritime, one hand resting beside a contract worth more than $1 billion. 8 years earlier, his pregnant wife had vanished during a private anniversary cruise off the California coast. No body had been found. Grant had cried before cameras, funded search operations, built a memorial foundation, and transformed himself into America's most admired grieving husband. Now the woman he had buried in public memory stood at the entrance in a simple navy dress. Emily was 38. Her blonde hair fell over one shoulder, and a pale scar crossed her left wrist. She wore no dramatic jewelry. She needed none. Reporters were already turning their cameras toward her. Phones rose across the room as live-stream comments moved too quickly to read. Beside Grant stood Vanessa Reed, his wife and communications director, wearing the diamond necklace that had once belonged to Emily. Vanessa touched it instinctively, as if guilt had become physical. Grant's public smile remained in place, but his face had lost its color. "This is impossible," he said into the microphone. Emily walked forward alone. Her daughter was not in the ballroom. Lily was safe in Oregon with Thomas Walker, the retired captain who had pulled Emily from the Pacific 8 years before. Emily had promised Lily that no camera would turn her childhood into evidence. Grant stepped away from the podium. "Whoever you are, this is not the place." "You're right," Emily said. "The place was your yacht. When I was 34 weeks pregnant and you decided your future would be easier without me." A federal prosecutor stood near the back of the room with 2 Coast Guard investigators. They had not come to stage a trial. They had come because Grant's acquisition announcement had become part of an active obstruction investigation, and because a sealed indictment had been returned that afternoon. Emily placed a red marine locator beacon on the registration table. "This transmitted my position after I entered the water," she said. "IT created the first record you could not buy, edit, or bury." Grant glanced toward the exits. Security did not move. Every guard had been instructed that evening to answer to the venue, not to Holloway Maritime. The screen behind him changed. The billion-dollar development presentation disappeared. In its place appeared a single verified map showing the Celestine's route and the location of Emily's distress signal 37 miles offshore. Grant stared at it. Emily had spent 8 years preparing for this moment, but she felt no triumph. She remembered black water, a flashing red light, and the child inside her fighting to survive. "The public believed you lost a wife and daughter," she said. "The truth is that both of us survived you." The ballroom doors remained open. No one needed to close them. Grant had spent years believing power meant controlling every exit. He had never understood that the most dangerous room was one filled with witnesses who no longer accepted his version of events. Chapter 2. The Anniversary Cruise. 8 years earlier, the Celestine had left San Francisco Bay beneath strings of white lights. Grant called the cruise an anniversary celebration and a new beginning for Holloway Maritime. Investors, board members, reporters, and selected employees filled the forward deck while a jazz quartet played near the polished staircase. Emily stood beside him in a pale blue maternity gown, one hand resting over her belly. She was 34 weeks pregnant with their first child. For years, she had helped Grant build the company. She had sold property inherited from her grandmother to finance his first commercial vessel, reviewed contracts at their kitchen table, and prepared presentations when no bank would return his calls. Now company histories described her only as Grant Holloway's supportive wife. Vanessa arrived after sunset wearing Emily's anniversary necklace. Grant had claimed it was being cleaned. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Vanessa asked, touching the diamonds. Grant's expression warned Emily not to respond. Later, while Grant spoke with investors, Emily saw a document beneath his leather portfolio. Her legal name appeared above the words "accidental death benefit." The policy was worth $15 million. Attached trust papers transferred control of several marital assets if she and the unborn child died together. Emily had never approved them. Her phone vibrated inside her evening bag. Do not drink anything. Get off the yacht before midnight. A second message arrived. He knows you found the policy. Emily looked toward Vanessa, but the other woman had turned away. The yacht was more than 30 miles offshore. Emily moved toward the lower deck, searching for a radio or crew member she could trust. The first service telephone had no signal. The emergency handset had been removed. A heavy security chain secured the tender boat. Voices approached from the private lounge. Emily stepped behind a half-closed door. She saw the documents. Vanessa said. "IT no longer matters," Grant replied. "The stern cameras are already offline. The board will believe she went outside alone. You said she would sign the trust papers. She would never leave without the child." Emily felt her daughter move beneath her palm. She stepped into the corridor. "How long have you been planning this?" Vanessa went pale. Grant remained calm. "You are emotional," he said. "You have been unstable for months. I financed your first vessel, and I turned it into an empire. We built it together." "No," Grant said quietly. "I built it. You were there." Emily moved toward the outer walkway. Mounted beneath the rail was a compact satellite locator beacon used during offshore inspections. It could not transmit a voice or monitor two heartbeats. It did one thing reliably. Once activated beneath open sky, IT sent an identification code and location to a commercial emergency network monitored by rescue authorities. Emily grabbed it and pulled the protective tab. A red light began to flash. Grant followed her outside as fireworks exploded above the forward deck, drawing every guest's attention toward the sky. "Give me the beacon," he said. "The signal is already active." He stepped between her and the door. Vanessa stood behind him, frozen. "You can still stop this," Emily said. "Turn the yacht around. Let me leave." Grant looked at her, as if calculating the cost of mercy. "You would take the company. I would tell the truth." "That is the same thing." The yacht crossed a strong current. Emily's heel slipped on the damp deck as Grant reached for her arm. His hand closed hard enough to leave bruises. She pulled away, lost the rail, and fell backward into the Pacific. The cold stole her breath. She surfaced beneath the stern lights and called for help. Grant looked down at her. A life ring hung less than 6 feet from his hand. He did not throw it. Vanessa appeared beside him, one hand covering her mouth. Neither sounded the alarm. The Celestine continued forward. Emily stopped shouting and pressed the beacon against her chest. Its red light flashed above the waves. "Stay with me, Lily," she whispered, speaking her daughter's name for the first time. Nearly 20 minutes later, Captain Thomas Walker saw the irregular distress signal from his coastal research vessel. He changed course and alerted the Coast Guard. When his searchlight found Emily, she was barely conscious, but still holding the beacon above the water. Thomas pulled her aboard. "My baby," she managed. "Please don't let Grant find us." Chapter 3. The First Record. The Coast Guard helicopter reached Thomas's vessel shortly after midnight. Emily was hypothermic, bruised, and in premature labor. She identified herself to the flight medic and told him her husband had washed her in the water without attempting rescue. Her statement entered the mission log before Grant's public story reached television. At a coastal hospital, doctors performed an emergency cesarean delivery. Lily was born weighing 3 pounds, 11 ounces. Her first cry was thin but strong. She was transferred immediately to a regional neonatal intensive care unit with immature lungs, feeding difficulties, and episodes in which she briefly stopped breathing. Emily saw her daughter through the incubator wall 6 hours later. Sensors covered Lily's chest. A small oxygen line rested beneath her nose. A feeding tube delivered milk because she was too weak to coordinate sucking, swallowing, and breathing. "She is doing what premature babies do," the neonatologist explained. "She is learning outside the womb what she should still be learning inside it." The NICU measured progress in grams and quiet minutes. Emily learned that an alarm did not always mean disaster. Sometimes a sensor had shifted. Sometimes Lily needed a gentle touch on the foot to remember to breathe. Other times doctors moved quickly and Emily stood behind the line on the floor while trained hands protected the only person she had left. The NICU also taught Emily that protection was not the same as control. During Lily's second week, an infection required antibiotics and closer monitoring. Emily stood beside the incubator convinced that sleep would be a form of abandonment. A nurse named Carla finally pulled a chair beside her. "Your daughter needs a mother who can keep going after tonight," Carla said. "Let us watch while you rest." Emily slept for 2 hours in the family room. When she returned, Lily's oxygen level was stable and Carla had written every change on a card beside the incubator. Emily kept that card for years. Grant had trained her to believe that depending on someone created weakness. The NICU showed her the opposite. Reliable systems were built when responsibility was shared, documented, and never hidden behind one powerful person. That lesson later shaped every Harbolite device and every company policy Emily approved. For 43 days, Lily grew stronger. She moved from assisted breathing to room air, from an incubator to an open crib, and from tube feedings to a bottle. Emily practiced skin care, holding Lily against her chest until both their heart rates settled. Thomas visited without demanding gratitude. He brought clean clothes and food. Rachel Brooks, Emily's college friend and a maritime attorney, arrived before sunrise and began preserving records. Grant appeared on national television beside Vanessa, describing Emily as emotionally overwhelmed. He claimed she had wandered alone near the stern and disappeared before anyone realized she was missing. Search vessels crossed the wrong section of water because Holloway Maritime initially reported an inaccurate location. Emily watched one press conference from a family room near the NICU. Grant's voice broke at the correct moments. "He is turning me into the unstable wife he warned everyone about," she said. Rachel switched off the television. "Then we create a record before repetition becomes accepted as truth." That afternoon, Supervisory Special Agent David Mercer of the Coast Guard Investigative Service interviewed Emily privately. A federal prosecutor and Rachel were present. Emily described the insurance policy, disabled communications, chained Tinder, warning messages, Grant's words, and the moment he looked directly at her in the water. "Did he attempt to help you?" Mercer asked. "No." "Could he see you?" "Yes." "How certain are you?" He waited until the yacht moved beyond the light. Mercer did not promise an arrest. He explained that belief was not evidence, and that the beacon established location, not intent. However, Emily's statement, rescue data, medical records, and Thomas's vessel logs were preserved under federal control. Grant's representatives were already contacting hospitals and rescue agencies, asking whether an unidentified pregnant woman or premature baby had survived. A magistrate judge approved a temporary protective order sealing Emily's location, Lily's medical records, and the identities of the medical staff involved. The order was later extended after Grant's private investigators began searching for Thomas. Emily did not vanish from the law. Her legal identity remained Emily Carter Holloway inside sealed federal files. The court authorized protected relocation and confidential use of her maiden name, Emily Carter, for housing, employment, and Lily's medical follow-up. On Lily's 43rd day, she passed her final breathing and CR tests. Emily carried her out of the hospital wearing a white knitted cap. She had no access to her home, most of her money, or the public version of her own life. But Lily was breathing beside her. For that day, IT was enough. Chapter 4. When evidence was not enough. Federal investigators searched the Celestine at sunrise. The emergency handset had been returned to its cradle. The chain had disappeared from the tender. Carpets had been cleaned. The stern cameras showed a convenient power failure, but the accessible system log did not identify who caused it. Crew members repeated similar statements. Emily had been upset, emotional, and alone near the stern. Grant claimed she must have activated the beacon during a panic and fallen accidentally. The beacon contradicted his reported location, but it could not prove he intended her death. The insurance policy was real. Grant's attorneys produced copies carrying Emily's apparent signature. A handwriting examiner found irregularities but needed original documents held by an overseas broker. The warning text came from a prepaid phone purchased with cash. Vanessa denied sending them. The truth existed in fragments. Assistant U.S. Attorney Julianne Price refused to file a weak attempted murder case simply to satisfy public anger. "If we charge too early and lose," she told Emily, "we may protect him from being tried again. Waiting is not the same as doing nothing." Emily hated the distinction, but she understood it. The investigation secured enough evidence to examine insurance fraud and obstruction, yet not enough to prove what Grant intended when he blocked the doorway or watched the water. Meanwhile, Lily needed medical follow-up, and Grant's investigators were moving closer. Under an expanded protective order, Emily relocated to a cottage near Coos Bay, Oregon. Thomas lived nearby. Rachel managed communication with federal authorities. Emily used her maiden name publicly while her connection to the Holloway case remained sealed. She did not live as a ghost. She paid taxes, attended medical appointments, and cooperated with investigators. But reporters, Grant's attorneys, and most of the country continued to believe she was dead. The first year was not a revenge montage. It was therapy, bills, sleepless nights, and Lily's fragile lungs. Emily woke whenever her daughter's breathing changed. She avoided open water and locked doors twice. Then she began taking evening classes in marine electronics. The red beacon had saved her because it performed one simple function when every powerful person around her chose not to act. Emily wanted rescue technology that commercial operators could not quietly disable or bury inside company-controlled systems. Thomas converted an old storage room into a workshop. Emily's first prototype failed in a bucket of salt water after 11 minutes. The 20th transmitted through a storm from 15 miles offshore. She named the company Harbolite to protect Lily and preserve the federal case. Harbolite was owned through a lawful protective trust. Emily remained the beneficial founder, but public filings identified an independent trustee and Michael Carter, a retired engineer with no family relationship to her, as chief executive. Grant would later mistake Michael for the owner. Harbolite grew slowly. Fishing crews installed its independent acknowledgement beacons. The devices transmitted location directly to emergency networks and recorded whether a distress signal had been received, forwarded, and answered. They were designed so no company executive could erase the first record of a person asking for help. Emily refused to attach her face to the brand. She wanted the technology judged by whether it worked. Lily grew up knowing that her family history contained a protected chapter. Emily never told her that her father had died or invented a heroic explanation. When Lily was 5, Emily said only that Grant had made dangerous choices and that the court was still deciding what could be proven. At 8, Lily learned that he had left Emily in the ocean and then lied about it. Dr. Naomi Ellis, a child trauma specialist, helped Emily answer questions without giving Lily images she was too young to carry. "Was I the reason he did it?" Lily asked once. "No," Emily said. "You were never the problem. His choices belonged to him before you were born." Lily loved maps, tide pools, and repairing small radios with Thomas. She did not grow into a symbol of survival. She grew into a child who forgot homework, disliked peas, and believed every family meeting should include cookies. Emily protected those ordinary details because Grant had already taken enough. By Lily's 7th birthday, Harbolite employed more than 60 people and supplied vessels from California to Alaska. Emily had not destroyed Grant's empire. She had built something his empire needed. Chapter 5. The Empire of Grief. Grant turned loss into authority. After Emily disappeared, he funded search operations and established a foundation in her name. A California court later declared her legally dead based on prolonged absence and the public search. Because Lily's existence remained sealed in federal records, parts of the family trust were frozen, but Grant collected the $15 million insurance benefit and gained control of most marital property. 3 days later, Holloway Maritime announced a major expansion. Grant married Vanessa 18 months after the memorial service. Their statement claimed shared grief had brought them together. In private, they lived through leverage and fear. Vanessa knew he had watched Emily in the water. Grant suspected Vanessa had sent the warning texts. He married the only witness he could monitor. She married the man powerful enough to protect or destroy her. Holloway Maritime expanded into ferries, cargo terminals, and luxury coastal development. Grant appeared on business television discussing resilience and family responsibility. The foundation bearing Emily's name funded maritime safety campaigns, while the company delayed replacing aging emergency systems. Then accidents and regulatory failures began to accumulate. No single incident destroyed the company, but insurers raised premiums, federal inspectors increased scrutiny, and investors questioned whether Holloway Maritime's safety technology could meet new standards. Harbolite offered the exact independent system Grant needed. A confidential acquisition proposal arrived at Emily's office, $40 million for the company, followed by an announcement at Holloway Maritime's 20th anniversary gala. Grant believed he was purchasing technology from Michael Carter. Emily accepted negotiations through the trust. Due diligence gave federal investigators lawful access to current Holloway records while a grand jury examined older financial and safety files. Emily did not use the sale as a trap. Every document request passed through attorneys, and investigators obtained separate warrants where required. Then Vanessa contacted Rachel. Grant was preparing to blame her for the Celestine records and later safety violations. He had drafted statements claiming she authorized the camera shutdown, insurance filings, and false public reports without his knowledge. Vanessa agreed to meet in a public restaurant. She admitted sending Emily the warning messages from a prepaid phone. She had known Grant planned to force Emily into signing trust documents. She claimed she did not know he would allow Emily to die until she saw him standing above the water. "You wore my necklace while you warned me," Emily said. "I wanted your life," Vanessa replied. I did not understand what he was willing to do to protect his. Fear did not make Vanessa innocent. She had remained silent, married Grant, spent the insurance money, and helped create the grieving husband narrative. But she provided internal messages and the location of a private archive. Investigators recovered original insurance instructions, payments to crew members, and a memorandum ordering the destruction of navigation backups. A former chief engineer, Samuel Price, produced a diagnostic copy automatically created by the Celestine's maintenance computer. The backup contained door access records, route changes, and damaged audio. Forensic specialists recovered Grant's voice. The cameras go dark before she reaches the stern. Another recording captured Vanessa asking, "What if the child survives?" Grant answered, "Then the problem survives." The recordings did not show Emily entering the water, but combined with the beacon data, witness testimony, forged policy documents, false location report, cleanup, and years of intimidation, they transformed fragments into a case. The most damaging financial record was not dramatic. It was an email Grant sent to the insurance broker 6 weeks before the cruise asking whether the policy would pay if neither mother nor child was recovered. He requested that the response be sent to a private address, then ordered the account deleted after Emily disappeared. A server backup preserved it. Investigators also found that Grant had delayed reporting Emily missing for 41 minutes. During that interval, the Celestine increased speed and changed course twice. The defense later called the changes routine navigation. Prosecutors compared them with weather, traffic, and engine data. They were not routine. They moved the yacht away from the beacon's transmitted position before the first official search request. No single record proved the entire crime. Together, they showed preparation before the cruise, abandonment in the water, and concealment afterward. A federal grand jury returned a sealed indictment on the afternoon of the gala. The charges included attempted homicide within federal maritime jurisdiction, obstruction, insurance fraud, witness intimidation, and conspiracy. Emily could have allowed agents to arrest Grant privately. She chose to appear publicly first for one reason. Grant had used her presumed death as a brand for 8 years. The public correction belonged in the same room where he intended to profit from it again. Lily remained safely away from the cameras. Chapter 6. The room where everyone could see. The ballroom remained silent after Emily's opening words. Grant looked toward the federal investigators. This woman is committing fraud. Emily did not argue with him. Rachel placed certified court documents on the registration table. Emily's sealed survival declaration, the order restoring public access to her legal identity, and confirmation that the Harbolite Trust had rejected Holloway Maritime's acquisition. The screen displayed only evidence prosecutors had approved for public release. The verified beacon map, the rescue timestamp, and the difference between the Celestine's actual location and Grant's original report. Emily did not play the protected audio. She did not explain Lily's medical history. She did not turn the ballroom into a courtroom. "My daughter is alive," she said. "She is also a child, not part of tonight's entertainment. Her privacy will be respected." That sentence changed the room. Reporters lowered some of their cameras. Investors looked toward Grant with expressions that were no longer merely surprised. They understood Emily had arrived with boundaries, lawyers, and evidence, not a desperate demand for belief. Grant tried to recover control. She abandoned her family and company for 8 years. "No," Emily said. "I gave a statement to federal investigators the night Lily was born. I lived under court-authorized protection while your representatives searched hospitals, pressured witnesses, and altered records." Vanessa stepped away from him. Grant turned sharply. "What have you done?" Vanessa's voice shook. "What I should have done 8 years ago." Federal agents approached the stage. The lead investigator read the arrest warrant quietly. Grant did not confess into a microphone. He did not need to. The case no longer depended on one dramatic sentence. As agents escorted him through a side exit, cameras recorded the end of his public authority, not the beginning of his guilt. That would be decided in court. Emily remained only long enough to finish her statement. "Harbolite will not be sold to Holloway Maritime. We will offer safety systems to any restructured operator that accepts independent oversight. The employees who had no part in these crimes should not lose their livelihoods because one man believed a company belonged to him more than truth belonged to everyone." She left through the main doors. Outside, Rachel asked whether she wanted to speak to the press. "No. What do you want?" "To call my daughter." Lily answered from Thomas's kitchen in Oregon. "Did you do it?" she asked. "I told the truth where people could hear it." "Are you coming home?" Emily looked back at the ballroom windows. Yes. It was the first time in 8 years she used the word without fear. Chapter 7. The Trial of Records. Grant's federal trial began 18 months later. The delay allowed both sides to examine millions of pages, challenge digital evidence, interview witnesses, and litigate the chain of custody. The prosecution did not ask jurors to convict because Emily's story was emotionally powerful. Julianne Price built the case through records. The beacon provider authenticated the distress transmission. Coast Guard personnel verified the rescue location and Emily's first statement. Physicians documented hypothermia, bruising, premature labor, and Lily's birth. Thomas described finding Emily alone in open water. Engineers explained how the Celestine's cameras had been deliberately interrupted and how the diagnostic computer preserved a copy outside the ordinary user system. Samuel testified that Grant ordered communications checks suspended and instructed him not to question route changes. Crew members admitted receiving money and legal assistance in exchange for coordinated statements. The insurance broker produced original documents bearing forged signatures and communications showing Grant requested a policy that treated Emily and the unborn child as one loss event. Vanessa testified for 4 days. She admitted warning Emily anonymously, watching Grant refuse rescue, participating in the false public narrative, and remaining silent until he prepared to blame her. Defense attorneys attacked her motives. "You cooperated only when your own freedom was threatened," they said. "Yes," Vanessa replied. "That is why I am not asking anyone to call me brave." Emily testified last. She described the water without dramatizing it. When asked why she did not immediately appear publicly, she explained the sealed investigation, Lily's NICU care, threats to Thomas, and the court-authorized relocation. Grant's attorney suggested she built Harbolite to profit from the tragedy. Emily looked toward the jury. "I built it because help should create a record before power has time to rewrite the emergency." During cross-examination, Grant's lawyers tried to present Emily's protected life as evidence that she enjoyed punishing him from a distance. They displayed photographs of Harbolite offices, industry awards, and the Oregon home Emily purchased after the company became profitable. "You became wealthy while my client grieved," the attorney said. Emily answered carefully. "Your client collected insurance money because he represented that my daughter and I were dead. I earned income by building equipment that helps living people return home." The prosecutor did not object. The distinction was clear enough for the jury. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Grant was convicted of attempted homicide, conspiracy, obstruction, insurance fraud, and witness intimidation. The verdict did not return the years Emily lost. It did not erase Lily's early medical struggles or give Thomas back his anonymity. It did something narrower and necessary. It placed the official record closer to the truth. At sentencing, the judge rejected Grant's claim that charitable work proved good character. A person cannot create a memorial from concealed wrongdoing and then present that memorial as evidence of virtue, she said. Grant received 21 years in federal prison. Vanessa pleaded guilty to obstruction, insurance fraud, and false statements. Her cooperation reduced her sentence, but 8 years of participation prevented leniency without consequence. She received 4 years. Other employees received shorter sentences or professional sanctions. Holloway Maritime entered court-supervised restructuring. Grant lost voting control. The company was renamed Pacific Meridian Services, and independent monitors reviewed every safety contract. Emily opposed destroying the business. Thousands of employees had not participated in Grant's crimes, and coastal communities depended on the company's services. Harbolite later licensed its systems to the restructured fleet under independent oversight. A portion of every contract funded equipment for small fishing operations that could not afford it. Justice did not require burning everything Grant had touched. It required preventing him from owning the future. Chapter 8. The name on the paper. The criminal judgment did not automatically end Emily's marriage. Legally, she had remained Emily Carter Holloway while Grant remarried after a declaration of presumed death. 1 week after sentencing, Rachel filed for divorce, restoration of Emily's separate property, protection of Lily's identity, and permanent restrictions on Grant's contact. From prison, Grant argued that Harbolite was a marital asset because Emily founded it before their marriage was formally dissolved. Emily laughed when she read the filing. "He left me in the Pacific, collected insurance money, married someone else, and now claims the company I built while protected from him belongs to our marriage." The family court rejected his argument. A spouse could not benefit from wrongdoing that created the disputed circumstances. Harbolite had also been funded through Emily's recovered separate property, grants, employee investment, and independent revenue. The insurance benefit was returned with interest. After restitution and legal obligations, remaining funds were placed in a court-supervised trust for Lily. Emily initially wanted nothing connected to the policy, but Lily's guardian explained that rejecting the money would benefit insurers and creditors, not punish Grant. At 11, Lily considered the issue carefully. "Does taking it mean I forgive him?" "No," Emily said. "Does refusing it help anyone?" "Not really." "Then keep it somewhere I cannot make stupid decisions until I'm older." The divorce decree restored Emily's legal name to Emily Carter. Lily chose Carter as well, understanding that a surname could describe family without erasing history. They celebrated at a diner near the harbor with Thomas and Rachel on video. Lily ordered pancakes in the afternoon. To the Carters, Thomas said, lifting his coffee. "You are not a Carter," Lily reminded him. "I am an invited independent director. You do not direct anything. I direct complaints." Emily laughed. Ordinary happiness felt more valuable than a dramatic ending. 1 year later, morning fog rested over Coos Bay as Harbolite workers installed the company's 10,000th beacon on a regional rescue vessel. The device was small, bright red, and deliberately simple. When activated, IT sent a position, confirmed receipt, and preserved the record beyond the control of any single company. Lily stood beside Emily, now old enough to understand both the technology and the story behind it. Do you ever stop being afraid? She asked. Sometimes, Emily said. Sometimes you act while you are still afraid. The rescue captain activated the beacon for a test. A red light flashed once, paused, and flashed again. Seconds later, the monitoring station confirmed receipt. Thomas watched from the dock. Rachel stood nearby. None of them had saved Emily alone. Survival had been built from many people choosing to answer. A captain turning toward a signal, doctors staying beside an incubator, investigators preserving records, witnesses finally speaking, and a mother refusing to let fear become her daughter's inheritance. Emily looked across the water. For years, she believed survival meant being pulled from the Pacific. Later, she understood that rescue was only the beginning. Survival was giving Lily a childhood outside Grant's story. It was building a company that made emergencies harder to erase. It was speaking publicly without surrendering her daughter's privacy. It was accepting that law could record accountability without restoring lost time. The test beacon continued flashing as the rescue vessel moved into the fog. Lily watched until the red light disappeared. Is it still working? She asked. Yes. How do you know? Emily looked at the confirmation signal on the station monitor. Because someone answered. The vessel vanished beyond sight, but the record remained. Some lights do not go out. They leave the reach of the person who refused to see them and continue towards someone willing to answer.